Oh, thank you for being here, giving us this little opportunity to remember our beloved Srila Prabhupada and Srimad Bhagavatam and the lordships and all the devotees. Hare Krishna. Adho Srila Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Sure.
I know many of you came last night to Glasgow, and you probably got back a little later than usual. Apologies for that, but nice to see you this morning. This is called From the Heart. I always wonder what it meant. We hear this in Kirtan Mela sometimes. Like when they say that, I put the microphone right there, you see. So. And that's even better. That's from the stomach. What to do? We shall see what happens. Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. 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 Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivajakacharya Ashtata Sadasha A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Shri Prabhupada ki, Shishi Tulsinas ki, Shishi Kodantai Mayapur Shashi ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Transcendental Harinama Sankirtan ki, Transcendental Book Distribution ki, Ago Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to all Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Vidaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nevasesha Sunyavari Astichade Shatarine. Hare Krishna. Yeah, well, make sure I don't pinch them. You know what we're like. These sannyasis, these swamis, they go to temples and they steal and take everything out of the temple and take it away. All the devotees, all the money, everything. All the Mahaprasadam, everything they take away. And what to do? Sannyasis. In the early years, one devotee openly admitted he was enthusiastic to take sannyas so he could get all the Mahaprasadam. It's a good reason to take sannyas. But it doesn't happen these days. Very rarely. It used to be like that, but it's not like that anymore. In many temples you never even see the Mahaprasadam anymore. I don't know what happens to it. It gets merged into the general prasadam, maybe. Okay, I suppose.
That's good.
Yeah, it's not bad. At least everyone gets a good chance of getting a little Mahaprasadam right now. Or it gets merged into someone else's, whatever, plate. I don't know. You have Mahaprasadam here? It's kept separate, isn't it? You still keep it separate. It's nice if you can do it. Some places they do. We do it 50-50 in New Mayapur. That which is the same as the general prasad, we usually mix it because it takes so long to serve like 50 devotees, you know. They want a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this and a bit of that. No, I don't want the dal. Just give me a bit of the samosa, please. The curd, just give me the curd. Like that. When Prabhupada was in Bombay, and it's an interesting thing, a long story, but I think it was Palako or one of Prabhupada's cooks told the story at a reunion in LA a few years ago that she was getting really, quite challenged by the fact that devotees were so picky about, the Mahaprasadam. And Prabhupada said, mix it all together. Mix it all together. Sweets, savories, rice, everything. All together. But apparently Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was also, we only hear, I don't know if it's true, but we hear that he did that also. But whatever it is, we're fortunate, even if we are a little bit, what do you say, choosy. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, I think, 7th canto. Did you read the verse yesterday? Yeah. I didn't read it the day before. Is it on the board up here, on the screen? Yeah. Good, wonderful. Which verse is it today?
36.
Pardon?
39, 36.
39, 36.
36.
Pardon?
36.
36. Text 36, okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Oops, excuse me.
Better on the microphone.
It was, yeah. I should have done a louder one. What to do? So we're reading text number 36 of the 7th canto, chapter 9. Prahlad pacifies the Lord with prayers. Evam Sahasra Vadana Angri Shiraha Kara Uru Nasa Adya Karna Nayana Aparana Ayuda Adhyam Maya mayam sat upalakshita sanivesham drishtva mahapurusham apa mudam virinchaha evam sahasravadanang vishira karoru nasajakana nayana barana yudayadhyam maya mayang sadupalakshita sanivesham drishtva mahapurusham apamudam virinchaha evam sahasravadanang vishirab karoru nasadya karna nayana bharana yudhyadyam maya mayang sadupalakshita sannivesham drishtva mahapurusham apamudam virinchaha evam sahasravadanang rishirak karoru nasajakana nayana bharana yudhyadyam maya mayang sadupalakshita sanivesham drishtva mahapurusham apamudam virinchaha
evam sahasravadanang vishira karoru
evam sahasravadanang vishira karoru
nasadya karna nayana bharana yudhyadyam
nasajakana nayana bharana yudhyadyam
maya mayam sadupalakshita sannivesham
maya mayam sadupalakshita sanivesham
drishtva mahapurusham apamudam virinchaha
drishtva mahapurusham apamudam virinchaha
evam sahasravadanang vishira karoru nasajakarna nayana bharana yudhyadyam maya mayam sadupalakshita sanivesham drishtva mahapurusham apamudam virinchaha evam sahasravadanang vishira karoru
evam sahasravadanang vishira karoru
nasajakana nayanam bharana yudhyadyam maya mayam sadupalakshita sanivesham drishtva mahapurusham apamudam virinchaha
Ladies.
Evam sahasravadanang vishira karoru nasajakana nayana bharana yudhyadyam maya mayam Mayam sadapalakshita sanivesam
Maya mayam sarupalakshita sanivesham
Drisva mahapurusham apimudam virinchaha
Maybe you're revealing your eternal constitutional position there. Those conditioned, not conditioned, but maybe a little bit conditioned, but those aspiring devotees in female bodies. Anyone like to chant? Evam sahasra vadanam vishirakururu Nasajakana nayana varana yudavyam Maya mayam sadupalakshita sanivesham Tishva mahapurusham apamudam virinchaha Evam sahasra vadanam vishirakururu That's a tough one, that one. Sajakana nayana varana yudavyam Maya mayam sadupalakshita sanivesham Tishva mahapurusham apamudam virinchaha Evam, in this way, sahasra, thousands and thousands, vadana, faces, angri, feet, shiraha, heads, kara, hands, uru, thighs, nasa adya, noses, etc. Karna, ears, nayana, eyes, aparana, varieties of ornaments, ayuda, varieties of weapons, adyam, endowed with, maya mayam, all demonstrated by unlimited potency. You do have it on the screen, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's easy to follow. Sat upalakshita. Appearing in different symptoms. Sanivesham. Combined together. Drishtva. Seeing. Mahapurusham. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Apa. Achieved. Mudam. Transcendental bliss. Virinchaha. Lord Brahma. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Brahma could then see you possessing thousands and thousands of faces, feet, hands, thighs, noses, ears, and eyes. You are very nicely dressed, being decorated and bedecked with varieties of ornaments and weapons. Seeing you in the form of Lord Vishnu, your symptoms and form being transcendental, your legs extended from the lower planets, Lord Brahma achieved transcendental bliss. Purport. Lord Brahma, being completely pure, could see the original form of the Lord as Vishnu. having many thousands of faces and forms. This process is called self-realization. Genuine self-realization consists not of perceiving the impersonal effulgence of the Lord, but seeing face to face the transcendental form of the Lord. As distinctly mentioned here, Lord Brahma saw the Supreme Lord as Mahapurush, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Arjuna also saw Krishna in the same way. Therefore he told the Lord, Parang Brahma Parang Dhamma Pavitrang Paramang Bhavan Purushang Shashvatang Divyam. You are the Supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth and the eternal divine person. The Lord is Parama Purusha, the supreme form, Purushang Shashvatam. He is everlastingly the supreme enjoyer. It is not that the impersonal Brahman assumes a form. On the contrary, the impersonal Brahman effulgence is an emanation from the supreme form of the Lord. Upon being purified, Brahma could see the supreme form of the Lord. The impersonal Brahman cannot have heads, noses, ears, hands, and legs. This is not possible, for these are attributes of the Lord's form. The word Maya, Mayam, means spiritual knowledge. This is explained by Madhvacharya. Maya Mayam Jnana Swarupam. The word Maya Mayam, describing the Lord's form, should not be taken to mean illusion. Rather, the Lord's form is factual. And seeing this form is a result of perfect knowledge. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Bahunang Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mang Prapajyate. The word Jnanavan refers to one who is perfectly in knowledge. Such a person can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he surrenders unto the Lord. The Lord's being symptomized by a face, nose, ears, and so on, is eternal. Without such a form, no one can be blissful. The Lord, however, is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. No one, where are we? Excuse me. As stated in the Shastra, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. When one is in perfect transcendental bliss, he can see the Lord's supreme form, Vigraha. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya says, Gandhakya Devata Yadvat Prativing Vyapya Tishtati Evang Vyaptang Jagat Vishnung Brahmatma Stang Dadarshaha. Lord Brahma saw that as aromas and colors spread throughout the earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead pervades the cosmic manifestation in a subtle form. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shlaka Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Apitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Shvapadantikam. So nice. When chanting the verse, it was the meter, the same meter that in 1976 that devotees, there was one devotee, I think he was Bengali, was leading the chanting of the Sanskrit, and that was the meter he chanted these verses in there. Pretty much all the verses, I think a few exceptions, but pretty much all the verses of Prahlad Maharaj's prayers are in the same meter, basically speaking. And this is a later verse in Prahlad Maharaj's prayers. We're in the second section. In 1976, Srila Prabhupada was lecturing on the earlier verses of Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, which you've already covered. Perhaps I wasn't there. In 1977, maybe he was lecturing on these. I don't know if there's a lecture on this verse or not in the Veda base. There may be. There's a few verses here where Prahlad Maharaj is explaining how the glories of the Lord, his original, you could say, appearance to Lord Brahma. So from this verse today, text. Did I read the long verse? No. 36. Okay. It was. What would we ascertain, let's say, from today's verse? What would you say that you get from this verse? And purport, of course. Having read it, heard it, digested it, what is the result? I mean, it's like with food, you get a result from digestion, don't you? Sometimes you get indigestion, sometimes you get wind, sometimes you get satisfaction, sometimes you get all kinds of reactions. Yes, Bhavan.
Well, that verse to me implies emphatically that the Absolute makes sure that Lord Vishnu is certainly not impersonal. With the way it's put, he certainly isn't impersonal. You can't deny that by that verse.
Yeah, that's quite an emphasized point, I would say. And from my limited perspective, it seems like in the purport that's Prabhupada has emphasized it quite strongly. That, as he says in this purport, that people oftentimes, when they think of self-realization, that it's some kind of impersonal merging into the effulgence, the Brahmajyoti. But here Prabhupada is making it quite clear in the purport of the verse also. Directly says that, the Lord has form. Although we may not see it, he has form. He's not just an energy, but he has transcendental form. Not just form, but transcendental form. Man, they say in the Bible, man is made in the image of God. Because we don't have exactly, you could say, but in principle, yes, we have form. God has form. His original form is two-armed, and that's the reference, or let's say the comparison there. We certainly don't have a universal form, or a form with many heads or arms or legs or noses or ears and whatever, maybe over periods of many lifetimes, but not in one lifetime. You may have a few, but not comparable with the Lord. But the two-armed form of Krishna, generally speaking in human life, people have two arms and two legs and one head, generally. And this is, the man is made in the image of God. Image. Okay, so that's probably the most emphasized subject matter in the purport. I may be wrong, but it looks like it, that to confirm that although the impersonal Brahman, or the energetic aspect, the effulgence of Brahmajyoti exists, it's not the origin. It's not the origin. Prabhupada even writes there. They may say everything comes from Brahman, but before that there was, or beyond that is Krishna. It's the effulgence, sometimes described like the effulgence of the sun. It exists. You can sort of say that the sun rays come from the sun, no doubt. But they've existed simultaneously with the sun. We use this word creation. It's a word which indicates that something didn't exist and then it came into being at a certain point. But there's no actual creation of the soul. According to Krishna, the soul is eternal. It's kind of a bit of a dilemma from the material perspective sometimes. And the closest we can get, because we're in a conditioned state where we tend to want to kind of measure things and dismiss things that we can't measure, things we can't comprehend with our limited perception. Devotees know, Takshi Krishnam Namadina Bhavad Graham Indriya, that with material perception we cannot perceive. How is that possible? How is it possible? You know, people's perception of God, if they have one at all, maybe it's impersonal. If it's personal, it's usually something somewhat concocted even. An old man with a long beard or something or another, or whatever it is. Some kind of form of some kind. But not very broad-minded, very limited. God, by nature, he can do anything he likes. It would be impossible for us to conceive that a woman could give birth to 100,000 offspring at one go. Isn't it? Even having 2 or 3 children is quite an exception these days, particularly. Some people, I think the highest number is 9 at one go in a human lady, recently anyway. And then you read things in the Bhagavatam or other Puranas of, you know, people having 10 million wives and all kinds of extraordinary. Ugrasena, King Ugrasena, was it 11th canto, 12th canto, I can't remember. How many bodyguards does he have?
Quadrillion.
Pardon?
A quadrillion.
A quadrillion, whatever that is. Sounds like a lot. Millions and billions and trillions or whatever it is. It's like, obviously from our perspective, it's almost proof that this is simply mythology. Materialists see it like that oftentimes. And, but then we find, even in our own limited experience, not in the human form, but in some forms, I've heard, I've never seen it literally happen, but I've heard that some in creatures, I don't know what creatures, they have many offspring at once. Some lower species, fishes or frogs or I don't know, some creatures, they lay like thousands of eggs all at once or something like that. Many offspring come. It happens within in our own perception, or our own, not perception, but our own experience of the world around us. So, we're mystified by these things, maybe. We try to understand these things, but our understanding is very, very limited. So what to speak of? Even material subject matter is extremely limited. We have very little capacity. I mean the other day I happened to glance that the scientists have now made a big breakthrough in science. That they're postulating, theorizing now that the black holes are not black holes, they are planets of ice. Now this is really an important breakthrough in science, isn't it? They're like 1 billion light years away or something. and they're planets of ice. It's really important to know this, because 2 weeks ago you knew that they were black holes, and now you know they're not. They're planets of ice. There'll be next month they might be chocolate balls. That will be very interesting. Then we'll really be keen to go there. Or maybe they become ice creams if they're planets of ice. That would be really good. Imagine a planet of ice cream. Ooh, I'm sure a lot of people would like to go there. And it's a speculation.
That would be a really good reason to fund more research for.
It would, wouldn't it? I think this is a good thing we're working on here. We can suggest this, and they might reward us for the suggestion, you know. But whatever it is, it's some kind of speculation. You know, if you have imperfect senses, and even if you have all these whatever they call them, hubbles or bubbles, these things they look through, different types of machinery apparently, the result's still imperfect, because the initial perceiver or whatever is imperfect. So we're going to see some imperfect result. It's constantly changing according to the changing, whatever, things around us. So our perception is very limited. It's very hard, Prabhupada would tell the story of the frog in the well, very hard to conceive of anything outside of our experience. If you see someone walking along the road with 100 noses, you would have quite a shock probably. I've never seen it. Have you ever seen anyone walking along with 2 noses? Maybe some deformity there which looks like 2 noses sometimes you get. But these things are quite shocking. So we can understand it, materially speaking, we can't really understand this. There's another important point in this purport. One is the inconceivable nature of God and his personal, because, you know, we can't really totally deny the fact that there's some kind of personality in our own existence, whatever it is, material or spiritual or subtle or whatever. But there's something there, there's somebody perceiving variety, there's somebody perceiving relationships, there's something going on, whatever your faith is on that, but it's there, we can't deny it. So, without getting into kind of simple logic or whatever, but have you ever looked into a mirror, which you probably do every day, probably most people do, you see something in the mirror, isn't it? When we look in the mirror, what do you see? If you assume the mirror is clear, what do you see?
A covering.
Pardon?
A covering.
A covering?
A covering of the real self.
A covering. Well, you're getting a little philosophical here. You're beyond me. What do you see when you look in? What does Prahlad Maharaj then? Where's Gandhiki? He's not here. Prahlad Maharaj, one of his favorite statements, Prahlad Maharaj, excuse me, one of his favorite statements is, mirror, mirror on the wall. How's that saying go?
Who is the fairest of them all?
Yeah, what's the last word?
On the wall.
Huh? Who's the fairest of them all? Me. Because when we look in the mirror, you know, we're quite attached. Of course, sometimes it's not what we like it to look, but we have that intention that we like to see ourselves in that way, or we try to make ourselves come to that point which we would like to be. We want this little God mentality, I suppose. But it's supposed you expect to see a reflection of your face, don't you, in the mirror? If you're putting your face there. You don't expect to see a monkey's face in the mirror, or, you know, a picture of it might not be bad, an ice cream or something. You look in the mirror and you see an ice cream in the mirror. You probably think there's something wrong here. You expect to see something related. Now, if the mirror is very dusty, what do you see? Very simple.
Distortion?
Yeah, some kind of distortion or something very vague. I think we could say vague. It might not be a distortion much, but it's more vague. It's not clear, very unclear. Now, if there's a big crack down the middle of the mirror, what do you see? Oh, don't get too keen there. What do you see?
A split personality.
Pardon?
A split personality.
A split personality, that's a good way of putting it. A crack down the middle, you've got a crack down your face. You know. What happened? If there's all kinds of deformities on the mirror, what do you see? You see deformities in the reflection of your face. If the mirror is concave, I don't know which way around it is, convex, concave, then what happens?
A smaller face.
It becomes teeny, your head becomes teeny, maybe your body, depends on the mirror, but it becomes huge. Or vice versa, you have that monstrous head. You know, you're seeing the perversion there. Is not what it is, or what we think it is anyway, the covering which we identify with. It's a perverted reflection that we see, and if that's all we know, which, as Bhavan Prabhu said, the coverings on the real self, and that's basically all we know, we identify with. And you know, that's what it is. We tend to think that's me. And when you look in the mirror, then naturally, and if you don't know, you never, no idea, then you might think that's what I look like. You can't necessarily see our face. Can anyone see their face? You can sort of see the tip of your nose, isn't it? Can you see anything else? Well, kind of a vague outline of the nose if you really put your eyes down there. Can you see your ears? Can you see them? I mean, you can feel them, but can you see them? Not with the two eyes, anyway. Maybe with the help of a mirror, you can get a reflection, a reflective picture of them. And if the mirror is clear, perfectly clear, and you know, in order, then you probably get a pretty good reflection of what the ear looks like. So the other point in this purport is our perception. What is perceived? Drishya, or darshan, what's perceived, and drishya, how we perceive it, our perception, is perverted. So it's impossible to conceive of something which is beyond our it's not impossible, but to actually perceive it itself maybe, but to accept it, to conceive of it may not be. But the perception is very difficult. Even in material terms, to perceive of something on the other side of the universe with our present senses is not really realistic. You know, to even perceive what's on another planet, or even this planet. They don't even know what's inside of the center of this earth, really. They've come up with different theories. They just came up with another one, I can't remember what it was, I read it the other day. A different theory of what's inside the planet, you know. They don't really know. I don't know of anyone who's gone on holiday to the center of the earth. They go on the surface, and we don't go much more than a couple of miles or down generally, I think, with the deepest tunnels. Not very much, it's just like scratching the surface, as Prabhupada says sometimes. And that's right there on our own planet. And obviously different living entities have a different means of perceiving, and even amongst humans they see the surface differently also, according to their conditioning. Very hard for us to understand something of this type, the nature of Godhead. And so the point is here, there's two things which immediately come to mind. One is the fact that, like the example of the mirror, it has to be clear, pure, in order to see what's going on there. So that purification of our perception, or our means of perception rather. The soul is the soul, covered it may be, and what's perceived is what's perceived. It may be changing its form and so on in this world, no doubt. But in one sense it's the same. We're all perceiving the same basic. And if you take this room as an example, the same light and what have you up there. Different living entities with different forms of senses may perceive it somewhat differently. So the means of perception is different. Everyone's got that's the covering. The covering which we have is the means of perception. Different life forms with their different set of senses. And we perceive the objects of this world, what to speak if we delve into something beyond it. We all perceive it differently because of our different set of senses, our different covering. If you're in an animal body or a plant body or an insect body or varieties of human bodies, we all perceive the objects differently. For some, the human body, for instance, may be an object of sense gratification. We see a beautiful woman or a handsome man and we become a little attracted to enjoy that, or whatever, it's something like that, or to try to exploit that. And to another creature it might be, they may see it as a form of food. Another one may be a place to live in or live on. Different creatures, different entities with different conditioning see it somewhat differently. The means of perception are limited or conditioned, and here, what we know from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gave Arjuna the eyes to see this form, and this Virat Rup, this universal form. Lord Brahma also couldn't see his origin, right? He's described here. He was unable, it took a long time before he perceived the origin, what's behind everything. You can't really see this, you can see the sun kind of, especially when it rises and sets, when it's behind the mist or the clouds. But we can't directly look at the sun when it's in full shine. But we can see the sun shine. They've existed more or less simultaneously. It doesn't really have an origin. It does have an origin, definitely, but it's existed ultimately as long as the sun has existed, although it comes from the sun. So that's probably the closest example we have of that one, is the sun. The sunshine comes from the sun, but it has existed basically as long as the sun has existed. There's not much meaning to the sun without sunshine. And there's no existence of sunshine without the sun. They kind of exist, but definitely the sunshine comes from the sun. So everything comes from Krishna, but everything's kind of existed simultaneously. This is a little hard as a concept for measurable, materialistic minds, but that's from a rough conditioned state, something we might understand. But back to our perception, to perceive this, Krishna, one of the we can say basic understandings which is required is that Krishna is inconceivable. Even Lord Brahma, there are many various pastimes in the Bhagavatam also, Lord Brahma, his relationship with Krishna. There's a couple which are very famous in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. Who remembers what they are? Yes, Alan. Pardon?
The calves and the cowherd boys.
Yeah, when he tried to steal away the calves and the cowherd boys, and the result of that was he had quite an eye-opening experience, didn't he? In more way, he got more eyes than us, so it was quite a big eye-opening experience. What did he see? Ultimately, Krishna reciprocated with him, and how did Krishna reciprocate?
He expanded himself into the forms of all the different calves and cowherd boys for 2 years, and Rama then bowed down to him and washed his feet with his tears.
Yeah, Brahma was quite perplexed initially. He didn't understand what was going on. He was mystified by Krishna's opulences. We won't get into the whole story, it would take too long. But then Krishna revealed that each and every one to Lord Brahma of those forms of calves and cow boys was none other than himself in the form of four-armed forms. Because Lord Brahma is perceiving the Lord in this way. He's not perceiving the Lord in the same way that the Brajvasis are perceiving him. The Lord reciprocated with him and gave him this incredible darshan. And Lord Brahma was ecstatic, bewildered in one sense, but ecstatic at the same time, blissed. And the Lord reciprocated like that, each and every one of them. Not only that, but he saw so many Brahmas coming to worship, so many Shivas and Brahmas and other forms coming to worship them. There were countless Vishnus everywhere, every single. It was like, what can you say? Overwhelming. And Lord Brahma realized that he was just like a insignificant insect in a pot. What can he understand? It's not easy to comprehend. Even Lord Brahma was perplexed. And again, of course, there's another famous pastime in the Bhagavatam 10th canto. You remember that one?
Govardhan Leela?
Well, that's Lord Indra, isn't it?
Yeah.
Govardhan, yeah, but with Lord Brahma. Is he part of that also? No.
Lord Brahma, he came to see so many events actually, but he came to see the Rasa Leela being performed with Krishna in so many forms with so many
Yeah, I mean there were many times when Lord Brahma and the demigods come to witness Krishna's. Even that pastime of the coward boys, if we see according to our needs, like children, But if you go a little deeper, there's a lot more to that than just meets the eyes, so to speak. Lord Brahma was absolutely amazed to see how his Lord so easily finished off the Aghasura demon. And we read deeply into the commentaries. Prabhupada's mentioning Madhvacharya's commentary here, but one reads deeply into various commentaries on these pastimes, you'll see that Lord Brahma was thinking, let me do something now which will cause my Lord to perform pastimes even more incredible than what he's already done. So he had another side to it. It wasn't just overwhelmed with pride, which is the lesson we learn from that at our stage particularly. But there was a relationship going on. He was instrumental in the Lord's pastimes to unwind even more incredible pastimes. Krishna's reciprocation. And one of the main things that comes out of this is reciprocation, isn't it? Fulfilling the desires of everyone, even the atheists. Prabhupada, one time, there's an incredible statement, two statements which come to mind. One was when Prabhupada said one time, someone, why we have, I don't think you've got a picture of Lord Nrsingadev in the room here. I don't know, I can't see.
It's on the altar.
On the altar there's a picture of Lord Nrsingadev. Let me see. Oh yeah, there he is. Is that from Mayapur?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is, Ugra Nrsingadev. So they look a little faint. Maybe we need a bit brighter pictures, I think. I got bad eyesight, but they look a little faint. But yeah, Lord Nrsingadev. Now, what would an ordinary materialistic person think if you say, this is God? This is God. Devotees used to preach like, I don't know if you've, perhaps the first time, I think devotees were just hearing about Prahlad Maharaj and Nrsingadev, and they start preaching to new guests about, how God ripped the guts of his, Prahlad Maharaj's father to shreds, and there was blood everywhere. And like the devotees are all excited and all blissful. This guest is like, this is God, It sounds pretty far off most people's concept of God, I would say. But what do they think when they hear this is our God, and then this is also our God. He's got a horse's head. See him over there? And this is our God. And there's this like hog, with a club and club there. And this is God, and he's a tortoise or a turtle or something. And this is God. He's a fish. What do most people think?
He's expert at open heart surgery.
Well, that's another thing. That's another thing. We heard that. Where did I hear that this morning? I read it this morning. I read that very thing this morning. How expert at open heart with his nails. He doesn't need, all these knives and this and that. He just uses his nails. He gets right in there, solves the problem. But in general, what would people think when all these pictures of the avatars and stuff? Ordinary person in the West, at least, what do they think of this? They don't really. It doesn't resonate in a way that they're convinced that, blimey, blimey, they might say, if this term's still there. geez, these people are mad. You know, God. Yeah. And Prabhupada said, this is Krishna reciprocating with them. He said, this is to convince the atheistic people that God doesn't exist. To convince them even more that there is no God. Interesting, huh? Reciprocation. Adokshaja's hand is waving. I don't know if he's a... Pardon? Oh, your arm is sore, okay. Does that mean you're sore? Not you? I thought the arm was you. So that's one thing. Another time, on the positive side, another interesting factor here, this is related to the pastime of Lord Brahma or even Prahlad Maharaj or anyone come to that. When they're actually qualified to, the Lord reveals himself according to their qualification. As they surrender unto me, I reciprocate accordingly. So Lord Brahma was seeing, that's his position. Now whether that's his ultimate position, that's another topic altogether. But as Lord Brahma, he's in reverential worship, and he's got a role to play, and that is very much reverential. So one time, and I don't know if it's in the database, I think it is, I've read it somewhere. But when asked, another bewildering thing was when people see it on the altar, even with deities sometimes, I thought Krishna was blackish, but he's white. What is this? I'm sure sometimes people have asked you that question. And sometimes these other colors, all different colors. Now, we can only see a few colors, by the way, but even within our spectrum, he appears to be different colors sometimes. He's not exactly black, 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 black. It's a color we can't really exactly pin down from a material perspective. Blackish, blackish, sometimes, deep bluish. It's a different, we can't really picture it exactly. You get some idea of a dark monsoon cloud. It doesn't resonate necessarily too deeply. But why all these colors? What's this wrong with him? Has he got some, personality problem or something, who he is? Is he black? Is he white? Is he green? Is he red? Is he blue? What is he? Well, because you could say for me, inconceivable, he can be anything he likes. But one time, and I say it, I've heard this, and I'm pretty sure I read it, and you can check it out. And I think I've got the quote anyway. And Prabhupada said, because his devotees like that color. Simple, isn't it? It's like if you love somebody, say you love your wife or husband, and ladies have all run away already, but so we don't have to worry about the ladies now at the moment, they've gone. But if you love your wife, you try to dress, behave, and reciprocate according to what pleases her, isn't it? Isn't it natural? If you want to get rid of your wife, you do the opposite, or vice versa. You try to act and behave and dress and bring gifts which they like. So there's a reciprocation there. Radharani, well, she dresses in blue also because Krishna's bluish, that's her favorite color, and Krishna dresses in golden because Radharani is golden. There's a loving relationship going on there. It's not just that's what it is. Everything's about relationship, reciprocation. If you want to deny God, Krishna will reciprocate. If you don't want to know about him, that's the material world, isn't it? But if you want to go deeper, then he'll make it really convince you deeper. If you want to merge, if you want to become an artificial idea, some kind of reflection of God, or become his, we could say just an illusory idea that I'm God, but entity Brahmajyoti or something, he'll reciprocate. If you want to worship God in a reverential way, he reciprocates, and so on and so forth. And he gives, as we see, if you want to worship the demigods, he gives your faith so that you can do that, to convince people this is the truth. This is the ultimate truth. Krishna reciprocates according to the individual. If you like green, if you love green and I'm dressed in green, you feel good, huh? If you don't like, say for instance you hate blue, I don't know if people do hate blue, but just say you do, and everything, I paint the room blue, I dress in blue, I make everything blue, you're not going to feel very comfortable, are you? You're going to really be in the blues, feel the blues. Not going to be nice. So you reciprocate like that. So Krishna's reciprocating with everyone accordingly. It's not just a random thing. It's a personal reciprocation beyond and above just a form which you may like or not like. There's actually a personal reciprocation going on here. Everything is personal. Everything. Even if it doesn't appear to be, behind everything is a person, personality. So Krishna's reciprocating. The other pastime in the 10th canto, of course, is a very famous one of Lord Brahma coming to Dwarka, isn't it? He wanted to come and see Krishna, and the gatekeeper or the secretary, whatever, he said, "Can you please ask the Lord, can I see him?" And then the messenger went inside, and what did he say when he came out to Brahma? What did he tell Brahma?
Which Brahma are you?
Which Brahma are you, please? Krishna is asking, which Brahma are you? I mean, which Brahma am I? Which Brahma am I? What does this mean? Brahma, which one am I? I think everyone would respond similarly if it was a similar kind of thing said to us in their tiny little worlds that we're in. What do you mean? Which temple president? Which Sankirtan leader? Someone's here come to challenge me? Who is this? So he said, which Brahma? And he was bewildered. So then what happened? Tell him, I'm the four-headed Brahma of this universe. What do you mean, which Brahma? I'm the Brahma, I'm the four-headed one. The one of this universe, of course. So then when he said, okay, come on then, Krishna said, bring him in. And he went in, and what happened then?
Krishna called for the Brahmas from all the other universes.
Yeah, first of all, he was a little bewildered. He said, my Lord, I'm a little perplexed. I mean, your servant asked, which Brahma am I? I'm a bit bewildered by that. What does it mean? And then, the Lord then called Brahmas from numerous universes. Some of them had millions of heads. Now, that's pretty inconceivable, isn't it? Having four heads alone is pretty far out for a materialistic person to conceive or accept, isn't it amazing? So you can see there's a certain amount of change goes by, or has taken place in devotees. I mean, you may have a little problem with that, but to a large extent we've kind of accepted that. We may not understand how it works. We've kind of accepted, what's the problem? Why can't Lord Brahma have four heads? Just because you've got one, why can't he have four? There's a certain degree we've accepted some faith in that. Or that Lord Shiva sometimes has 3 heads and 3 eyes and this and that and whatever else, and there's one. Ganesh has an elephant head and whatever. All these different, and these are little things, but we've kind of accepted this to a large extent, if not completely. Something's going on, some change is taking place. It may not be in what we actually see per se, but we're accepting the inconceivability of the personality of Godhead. That is beyond our limited experiences and perceptions. That's the heart. So the other point, the major point really, in one sense of this, is purification. Purification of consciousness. It's through the consciousness that we interact or let's say, relate to the situation around us through consciousness. Our consciousness, or the mirror of the heart, sometimes it's described, the mirror of the heart, becomes purified. So it's the purificatory process, which I believe was touched on in a previous verse. I didn't read it, but I think it is. How Lord Brahma underwent tapasya to reach his ultimate objective, to find out his origins. Tapasya. Although it's not directly mentioned, maybe in this verse, indirectly inferred. But that purification of consciousness, so all this becomes like we become like the cobbler, and Prabhupada likes to tell that story as Narada Muni and the cobbler. Simple purity of heart. What is the difficulty of accepting the Lord? Is threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. What is the difficulty for my Lord? Come on, you stupid. Elephant through the eye of a needle? Maybe it's a big needle and a small elephant, okay. No, it was a small needle and a very big elephant. He's stupid. But he said, no. What's the difficulty? He picked up a little tiny banyan seed. I mean, everything is inconceivable, even the material energy, let's face it. How does it actually go on? How is it actually working? Tiny little banyan seed, and of course under different circumstances you could say, but that can develop into a huge ashwata tree, a huge banyan tree with branches going up and roots going down, and you can't see the beginning or the end of it. And you certainly can't see the little tiny acorn, or whatever they call it, seed, which caused it, in that sense. You can't even see the roots practically. You don't know what's going on. It's so complicated. So what to speak of the root of this material world? You know? Quite amazing. Krishna's inconceivability. And this is a wonderful thing. I mean, sometimes this is enough. We sometimes get overwhelmed by it all. I just want to go back to my room and watch the television or something and forget about truth. Sometimes we get a little bit overloaded like this. But it's actually wonderful. It's actually wonderful. Why do people like to watch kind of inconceivable movies, fictional movies? What's a popular one? I don't know. It used to be Star Wars. I don't know what they're into now. Huh? Superman? Doing things that no ordinary person can do, isn't it? And you see them sometimes with all kinds of... It's almost like trying to imitate the transcendental Lord, this pastime. They do all these things, and people are fascinated by it, aren't they? They love to hear about this impossibilities, They're attracted by it. All kinds of crazy things. And a lot of time, animations and stuff. A lot of it, from what I can see, have you ever had a really close-up look at an ant's face? I don't mean with these eyes, but when they, I don't know if it's true, but when they show you a real zoom in, it's pretty horrendous. It really looks like some terrifying demon. Probably does to other insects in that same, level of interaction, so to speak. To us, it's nothing. It's just a little thing in the way. Knock it away, or whatever people do. But it's got quite horrendous features. Teeny little thing, you can hardly see it. You zoom in, his legs are all hairy, and he's got these sharp teeth, these big eyes, and fierce-looking face. We can't see. But they magnify these things in some of the horror scenes and whatever, some ghastly looking demons and stuff. And people are fascinated by it. It's attractive, incredible. So you can see it like that this is like Krishna's just incredible, incredible. There's no limit to the variety, no limit to the excitement, no limit to the inconceivability. And that can be, you can say, when we understand that can be a great source of enthusiasm to push us forward, rather than disturb us, go back to our atheistic ways, but to spur us on. We don't know, we never know fully. Nobody can fully know. Krishna will reciprocate what's needed and purify our hearts. Hare Krishna. Well, it won't become just something we jump over and say, okay, move on to the next verse. Just quote some references related to it and move on with the same polluted perception. Let's purify our perception. We can't purify it. Krishna does that. He's pavitram. But we take shelter of the means, as Lord Brahma took shelter of the means of perception, which would be needed, for the Lord revealed himself accordingly when he was purified by tapa. And we have our tapa. And now it's time for tapa. It's prasadam time. That's one of the easiest forms of tapa, isn't it? Generally speaking. Okay, any comments or points? Is your arm still aching, or is that actually a point?
I was wondering, Maharaj, is patience a key element in the process of understanding?
Patience?
Yeah.
Is it the key element?
In the process of understanding?
Well, I don't know about the process of understanding it in the sense of patience is certainly an absolutely necessary virtue, if you want to call it that. We see that as one of the 6 necessary favorable items by Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Instruction. Enthusiasm, Rupa Goswami and other places Prabhupada said 2 things particularly, enthusiasm and patience. But like this, they go a little bit deeper than just a kind of like full stop patience, what it actually means. And you wait forever. We do see devotees who are willing to do that. They show that example that it's not a cheap thing for sure. But at the same time, not, as we say, not blind faith, not blind patience, or blind, say, fanaticism. Enthusiasm is meant to be with intelligence. It's not just meant to be passionate endeavor, but it's meant to be with intelligence. And what is that? And so we, by the association, I don't know, I mean, trying to put it in a practical sense, by the association of advanced devotees, or more advanced devotees, then the patience, if you want to kind of try to understand the depth of that, the patience and enthusiasm can be properly executed or properly applied. We're not just going to sit there without doing anything forever, following the wrong path, and expecting, the sun to rise or something. We've buried ourselves under the ground. You've got to know the process of experiencing it too. A little knowledge has to be there. Some bandha has to be there, not just a theory of the practice or the process, but some understanding. It's like goal. I don't know if it came up here, but it came up in my mind when we were reading this purport. I can't remember why. But the goal, the objective goal, Sambandha is also included in the process of knowledge or foundational understanding, is to know what we're aiming at also. People can be patient for the wrong thing, but we have to also, because we may have different objective goals, no doubt in one sense, but to understand, at least generally speaking, what is our goal and what is the means to attain that goal. Enthusiasm is to execute the means, you could say, and the proper means to get the goal, under the guidelines of those who know it. They know the goal, they know the means, they know where we're at. And we should be enthusiastic to follow that, but we should also be patient and not expect it to happen in a moment. There's so many examples in scriptures, in other places, of devotees, even Srila Prabhupada. So many examples are there of that. But the patience should be understood with knowledge, with sambandha as well. Yes, Bhavananda Prabhu.
Patience is sort of implied in perseverance, because in spite of so many difficulties, we have to patiently continue and persevere, that we're just going to go on anyway, in spite of so many difficulties.
That's a nice, thank you, very nice point. We all face difficulties, what we perceive as difficulties, because we're not seeing things in relationship with Krishna. But with that understanding that they are related to Krishna, and the difficulties we find ourselves in are not, there's not exactly another course, exactly some situation to help us to actually, become purified, to remove the coverings, or to see ourselves, or see Krishna at the root of everything, and see ourselves beyond that which we're presently let's say. Thinking is the truth. And perseverance in that sense of determination. The very word determination is interesting because terminate means to stop, so determinate means not stop. So determination is essential. Perseverance related to determination. Maybe there's a slight difference in their root meanings, but they're very similar. Persevering, being determined, not stopping. And determination comes up a lot, even in the Bhagavad Gita, doesn't it? How we must be determined.
It's interesting how intelligence is also to determine something.
Pardon?
When we're using intelligence, we determine something.
You determine something, yes. Another angle, which is all related, is how we determine things. The word is related. And real determination, you can't really apply it in one sense to any other particular objective goal. Other objective goals are not so, of course you could say the Brahmajyoti, but even that is not our eternal constitution, but other objective goals are temporary in themselves. They are flawed. So although determination continues, and it goes up and down like a yo-yo in this material world, it's many-branched, but determination is, can you say in one sense, is intrinsic with the living being. Intrinsic. You're conscious, you're a sentient living entity, whatever it is that we're determined for. So if we can channel that determination towards the one-pointed determination, Vyavasya-Yajna-Kalpa-Hirikeya Kurunandanam, towards Krishna, that knowledge, then we can say there are many discussions about patience. So some are simplistic, some are not, but that being able to continue determinedly towards the objective goal, but we shouldn't be just totally blinded by the modes of nature in the material world, because the false ego comes in, and no matter what, even if you're proven wrong, the scissors is convinced that they're right. Even though the knife has thrown them in the river, they're drowning. They won't give up their determination. They drown in the process. There's a little bit of intelligence to determine, also not to misdirect our determination, or patience, or enthusiasm and determination also are somewhat related. Yeah, anything else?
Two things really struck me about this purport that Prabhupada mentions. One thing he says is that genuine self-realization...
So, can you say that again? Can you say that, what Prabhupada said?
Yeah.
Read it quick. I missed the first two words, what you said. Genuine.
Self-realization consists not of perceiving the impersonal effulgence of the Lord, but seeing face to face the transcendental form of the Lord. This is genuine self-realization.
Genuine, yeah.
And the other thing that really struck me, Prabhupada explains here, the Lord's being symptomized by a face, nose, ears, and so on is eternal. Without such a form, no one can be blissful.
Yeah. Nice, huh? Very nice points.
Every word, every sentence that Prabhupada makes has got real punch behind it.
We may not see it at our different levels of, waking up, but it becomes evident, as we all know, when we read even the Bhagavad Gita, you read it 1,000 times. Each time you read it, it's like you've never read it before, practically speaking. It's, because you're seeing, hopefully we're seeing through slightly more purified vision, or in the association of devotees it becomes illuminated. Someone points out what we're not seeing, Same thing in the material world, people point things out to us that we didn't notice before, or we didn't recognize. So it's like that. By association, by purification. Nice one. Become of your actual self-realization. Yeah. Nice points. Last point. Yes, Prabhu. Last point. We've all got to get on.
Krishna, thank you for the recitation. And just maybe a stupid question, but I would like to come back in the beginning of report by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma, being completely pure, could see the original form of the Lord as Vishnu, having many thousands of faces and forms. This process is called self-realization. So the process of self-realization is to become completely pure, or the process of self-realization is to meditate upon Lord's form. I'm just trying to clarify it.
To meditate on the form or self-realization seems to indicate to see that form. Yes, they're all related, of course. Self-realization means different things, as Prabhupada indicated here, although, as Bhavananda Prabhu just said, what did he just say about the ultimate? What did you just say about that?
Genuine self.
Genuine. We used the word genuine. Genuine. There will be arguments over that, of course there will be, but and that's not a topic we'll get into. But the principle is there, obviously. Even those who assume or aspire for the impersonal Brahman, generally speaking, they also meditate on form. Pancha, what's it called? Pancha...
Upasana.
Huh?
Pancha Upasana.
Yeah, Pancha Upasana, the 5 forms of Vishnu and Shiva and Durga and Ganesh and someone else. 5 forms. But they understand that they're like evaporate. They're ideas that they just kind of evaporate. By meditating on those forms, you become purified. We do the same thing. We have a different goal. We meditate. You do visualize forms. That's what deity worship is an obvious example. We're looking at pictures. They're okay, they're external. But they create a picture within your heart. What else do we meditate on?
Manmana.
Manmana, well, Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. Always think of me. Meditate on me. Think of me. And the 2-arm form, Prabhupada emphasizes for the Gaudiya Vaishnava. We meditate on the 2-arm form. Okay, we may not be exactly purified, no doubt, but this is the purification by meditating or meditating on the Lord's lotus feet, meditating on the pure devotees of the Lord, remembering them. And let's put it in terms of a more, let's say, perhaps a little bit more of a kind of day-to-day basis. Meditation infers a pretty deep state of consciousness in many ways. But at least we remember. You remember those forms. You remember those pastimes. You remember those names. We meditate on the names. And that we do endeavor, you could say. When you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, it's not just something external. It's meant to be something internal as well. And we need to, if we want to progress or change our consciousness, it's going to take a long time if we keep it mechanical or external. There should be some internal relationship there. Trying to hear the name attentively or whatever it is, or without offense, is a form of meditation. We meditate on the Shastras. We meditate upon the service which we do. Meditation may not be the exact word in most people's minds, but at least we focus our attention on it. And that purifies the consciousness. And as the consciousness becomes purified, then naturally our attention becomes more fixed. And that which we're meditating on becomes more, alive, more real, more whatever you want to call it. Becomes more, a relationship develops. Materially speaking, people also, to some extent, you meditate on something, probably as an example of the insect that meditates on the bee or something, isn't it? When it's trapped in a hole and the bee covers it over, and it just meditating on just seeing the bee, and it becomes a bee. Whatever we think of at the time of death, that state will attain without fail. The devotee doesn't meditate on Krishna with the intention of becoming Krishna, of course. With that sambandha of understanding that he's my objective goal, or whatever, and our business is to serve him. The devotee has that approach. So we meditate. If you love somebody, you think about them. If you want to develop something, you have to think about it. If you want to become expert at something, you have to think about it. It doesn't just dawn on you one day. You become a champion football player or whatever. You think about it, you meditate, you think about great footballers, you associate with them. It's going through your mind constantly. Or girlfriend, boyfriend. And in devotional service, probably one of our shortcomings, is amongst many, is our lack. I mean, Krishna says himself, in all your activities, be conscious of me. We do our activities, but we're not always so conscious of Krishna as perhaps we could be. At least we try to chant Hare Krishna is the means of remembering our connection, or the connection with Krishna. Anything else? So they're all related. And you may say the ultimate goal of Brahma, okay, that's the ultimate is Lord Vishnu to him, but at that point. Then someone else, the ultimate is Lord Narayan, or similar to Lord Vishnu, or the ultimate is Krishna, the two-armed form. They're one and different. It's the same person, manifesting, reciprocating with you. They're all the origin as far as your conditional situation is, your state of consciousness, your relationship with Krishna. That's your origin. You can't relate to it. Even if you accept that, we see this comes up even with Vyankata Bhatt, for instance, who convinced, Lord Chaitanya convinced him that Krishna is the origin of Narayan, but still, Narayan was his Ishtadev. He wasn't going to change camps. There wasn't any competition there, but he wasn't going to change camps. His origin is Lord Narayan. His sources. Ultimately, everything comes from Krishna, but for him, that's it. He identifies with that. Anything else? Oh, we said that's the last point. We have to finish there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Safe.